Most people think their desire will come when life finally gives them a sign. But Neville Goddard taught something radically different, almost unsettling at first. The moment you assume the end, the path appears. Not a second later, not after hard work, not after waiting for the right time. The bridge begins the instant you shift who you are inside, and that changes everything. Because what if the reason things felt stuck wasn't lack of opportunity, but lack of identity? What if you've been waiting for life to move first, when life has actually been waiting on you? Once you accept the end as already yours, reality starts rearranging itself. People, events, timing, everything. It's almost eerie how fast things shift when you stop hoping and start being. And that's the paradox. The bridge doesn't appear after the desire shows up. The bridge appears when you show up as the version who already has it. This is the moment everything in your world begins to change. He often said that people spend years trying to make things happen, when the real magic begins the very moment they dare to assume the end. It's almost ironic. The path they've been chasing for so long was never built by action in the first place. It emerges from a shift in identity, from entering the feeling it real Neville spoke so much about. When someone finally settles into the state of fulfillment, the world reorganizes quietly, almost elegantly, without noise or resistance. He's seen people insist that they need a plan, that the bridge of incidents Neville Goddard describes surely must require steps A, B, and C. Yet life doesn't work with spreadsheets. It works with states of consciousness. The moment someone adopts a new inner standpoint, the universe responds as if receiving a command. And instead of effort, things begin moving through subtle nudges, coincidences, and invitations that appear out of nowhere. Invitations that weren't visible before. It's funny how the mind tries to convince people that they must force their way through. But the law of assumption method doesn't care about physical effort. It cares about who they're being internally. When a person occupies the end, when they trust creation is finished, explained by Neville, something opens. It's like stepping into a movie scene that was already filmed. They just finally walked onto the set. The bridge is not built brick by brick. It's revealed. Many think assuming the end is just visualizing, but it's so much deeper than that. It's a quiet, inner shift. A moment when desire stops feeling like a wish and starts feeling like memory, like something already lived. And because imagination creates reality, the world adjusts to match that internal memory. He's watched this happen countless times, often in situations that looked impossible from the outside. He often compares this process to walking into a conversation already in progress. You don't create the dialogue, you join it. The bridge works the same way. You don't construct it, you step into a path that already existed in the unseen. And the most beautiful part is that it responds instantly. The moment a person shifts state, they're already on the bridge. Even if nothing physical has moved yet, the inner reality has changed direction. Someone once told him, "But I don't see anything happening." And he smiled because that's always how it begins. The feeling comes first, the evidence later. Feeling is the secret. Neville repeated this endlessly. It's the internal decision that sets the entire bridge of incidents into motion. Not by pushing, not by controlling, but by allowing the new state to take the lead. A person doesn't need to know how the path will look. In fact, trying to know often slows everything down. Once they assume the end Neville style, life begins rearranging quietly, moving people, conversations, and opportunities into alignment. It's like watching dominoes fall, except they were already lined up long before the person ever noticed them. He likes to say that the bridge appears with the same softness as dawn, no loud announcement, just a shift in atmosphere. Someone suddenly texts, a forgotten idea resurfaces, a door opens that wasn't open the day before. None of these things are random. They're the bridge signaling that the state has been accepted, and when someone sees these nudges, they can't unsee them. What really surprises people is how natural the unfolding feels. They expected fireworks, but instead they find ease. That ease is the sign they have entered the state fully. The heaviness dissolves, the resistance softens, and they begin living as if what they want is already theirs. That's when the bridge accelerates, when desire no longer feels distant, but familiar. And so, the most important truth is this: the bridge is not created by struggle, it's created by consciousness. The moment someone inhabits the end, the path begins, even if they don't recognize it yet. And there's something even more powerful that happens once this bridge starts forming. Something Neville explained in a way few people truly grasp. He always found it fascinating how people try to change the world by pushing the world. Neville Goddard made it clear, the world is not the cause, it's the effect. The real cause is a person's inner conviction, the quiet certainty they hold when no one is watching. When someone truly accepts the end as real, life has no choice but to rearrange itself to match that decision. It's not positive thinking, it's a shift in identity. He likes to give the example of someone wanting financial stability. If internally they keep repeating old fears, they block the manifestation steps Neville outlined so clearly. But the moment they start living from the feeling it real Neville perspective, the naturalness of course I have it, circumstances begin shifting. Unexpected opportunities surface, people show up, ideas become obvious. None of this is random, it's the bridge of incidents unfolding precisely on schedule. He often compares inner conviction to tuning a radio. If the person is tuned to worry, they hear static everywhere. But when they tune into fulfillment, into the law of assumption method, the signal becomes crisp. Suddenly, conversations flow differently, timing aligns, and obstacles melt away. Living in the end isn't pretending. It's broadcasting a new frequency that the world is compelled to respond to. Neville used to say that assuming the end is like planting a seed. You don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You trust the process. Life is just as responsive. Once someone occupies the fulfilled state, the bridge forms automatically. Not through effort, but through resonance. The outside world begins echoing what the inside world has already accepted as true. That echo is the first sign that creation is finished, explained by Neville. He's seen people hesitate because the physical world hasn't changed yet. But that's the last place change shows up. The mind shifts first, then the emotions, then the body language, and finally the circumstances. When a person lives in the end, their choices subtly align with that state. They stop chasing, they start receiving. The bridge of incidents Neville Goddard described takes over and carries them forward. Inner conviction doesn't need loud affirmations. It needs quiet consistency. It's the confidence of someone who knows they're on the right path. And as that conviction deepens, the world mirrors it. Someone receives a message they weren't expecting. A meeting gets rescheduled. An idea randomly pops into their mind. These are not coincidences. They are the structural shifts of reality realigning itself. He's watched people experience these shifts and call them luck. They're not luck. They're evidence. Evidence that imagination creates reality and that the state they've been cultivating is beginning to solidify externally. He often says, "Don't be surprised when your world changes. You're the one who changed first." And once you change, the bridge of incidents begins unfolding whether you believe in it consciously or not. This rearrangement can feel subtle or dramatic, depending on how deeply the person has embodied the end. Sometimes it's a gentle redirection. Other times it feels like life picks them up and places them where they need to be. But either way, the movement is always precise. It never misses. The state they live from is the architect drawing the blueprint of their reality. He loves reminding people that consciousness doesn't wait for physical permission. Once the inner conviction is accepted, the bridge activates immediately. Even if it looks like nothing is happening, the unseen world is in motion. Conversations being guided, opportunities being prepared, paths being molded. And the next part is where most people sabotage everything. They wait for instructions instead of assuming the identity first. That misunderstanding leads directly into the next topic, because the bridge never shows up before the identity shift. It always shows up after. He often meets people who are stuck, not because they lack desire, but because they're waiting for some sort of cosmic permission slip. They want a sign, a sequence of steps, a guarantee. But Neville Goddard made something unmistakably clear. Waiting is the biggest trap. The bridge of incidents only forms after someone assumes the end, Neville taught, never before. It's like trying to see a reflection in a mirror you haven't stood in front of yet. He compares it to sitting in a parked car and waiting for the GPS to load a route without entering a destination. The system can only calculate a path once the end is defined. The law of assumption works exactly the same way. If someone doesn't choose their final identity, life has nothing to rearrange. But once they choose, once they claim the end, creation is finished, explained in their consciousness, and the steps begin appearing as naturally as breathing. People often say, "But I don't know what to do next." And he smiles because the next step is never revealed to the version of you who doubts. It's revealed to the version who knows. When someone shifts identity internally, the world recognizes that new state and responds to it. They start receiving messages, opportunities, ideas, and synchronicities precisely aligned with the manifestation steps Neville always pointed to. He's watched people transform their lives simply by deciding to be the person who already has the thing they desire, not pretending, being. And as soon as they adopt that identity, the bridge of incidents begins organizing itself with precision. People show up. Books fall off shelves. They overhear conversations that spark solutions. These details might seem small, but they are the breadcrumbs of a reality being reshaped. He often says that waiting for signs is like waiting for water to boil before turning on the stove. It just doesn't work that way. Signs appear because you assumed, not to convince you to assume. When someone is living in the end, signs become unnecessary. Their inner feeling it real Neville style becomes the compass guiding them. And ironically, that's when the most powerful synchronicities begin to show up. The identity shift is the true beginning of the bridge. That's why Neville insisted, act as if you are already the person you want to be. Not externally performing, but internally accepting. Once that acceptance settles, the person stops searching for validation and begins experiencing the unfolding. And that's when life starts whispering the perfect next steps, each one tailored to the new state. He's seen this with people in relationships, careers, health. It's universal. Someone longing for love continues longing because they keep waiting for the right moment. But the right moment arrives instantly when they embody the version of themselves who is already deeply loved. That new identity shifts their posture, their tone, their choices, and naturally draws in the external experience. There's a reason Neville said that imagination creates reality. Until someone imagines from the end, they're imagining from the lack of it. And imagining from lack produces more lack. But the moment they close their eyes and choose to live in the end, everything changes. They see differently, they interpret differently, they respond differently, and the bridge begins forming beneath their feet. The truth is, most people don't lack opportunities. They lack identity alignment. But once the identity is chosen, the steps become obvious. The path that once looked uncertain becomes illuminated. It's not that the world changed, it's that they changed their vantage point. And from this new vantage point, the movement of the bridge becomes impossible to miss. And that leads directly into the next realization. The bridge that appears doesn't need to make sense logically, yet it always responds perfectly to the state you've accepted. He loves reminding people that the bridge of incidents Neville Goddard described is not built with logic, it's built with alignment. Many try to map the path using their intellect, but the intellect can only predict based on the past. The bridge, however, comes from the state, from the future you've already chosen inwardly. So of course it won't look logical. It's not meant to. It's meant to be responsive, not reasonable. He often compares it to stepping stones appearing across a river. You don't see them all at once, and they definitely don't form a straight line. Yet each stone appears exactly when you need it, responding to your next movement, your next breath, your next assumption. The stone exists because you already decided you're crossing. That decision, that identity, is what causes the world to adjust. People expect the bridge to look predictable, but it rarely does. Sometimes it arrives as a setback that redirects them. Sometimes as a sudden opportunity they never planned for. Sometimes through people they barely know. The manifestation steps Neville spoke about aren't linear. They're intuitive. They rise from your state, not your expectations. And when someone truly grasps this, they stop trying to control every detail. He's seen people panic when the bridge looks chaotic. But chaos is often just the old state dissolving. When someone lives in the end, life reorganizes, and reorganization can feel like rearrangement, disruption, or even contradiction. Yet underneath it all, the unfolding is precise. The law of assumption method doesn't make mistakes. It always follows the blueprint of your final conviction. He likes to share the story of a woman who wanted a better job. Instead of receiving a clean, straightforward offer, she was unexpectedly laid off first. She panicked, until 2 weeks later she received a position with double the salary and far better conditions. The bridge wasn't logical, but it was responsive to her end state. The moment she assumed abundance, life took the most efficient path to deliver it. Neville would often say, "Don't judge the bridge," and he meant it literally. Judging the path stops the unfolding. The moment someone says, "This isn't how it should look," they shift back into the old state. But if they remain steady, living in the end, trusting the feeling it real Neville emphasized, the path reveals itself with elegance, even if at first it looks messy or unfamiliar. He's seen people look back months later and realize every accident, every delay, every twist was part of the most graceful unfolding they could have asked for. They couldn't see it at the time because they were judging through fear. But the bridge was working the entire time. Creation is finished explained this perfectly. The outcome exists. The bridge is simply the route taken to match it. If the bridge had to make sense to the logical mind, no one would ever manifest anything beyond their current level of understanding. The beauty of the law of assumption is that it bypasses logic entirely. It pulls you toward experiences your rational mind could never have planned, and that's precisely why the results feel miraculous. They're beyond what you thought possible. He often says that when you accept the end as done, you enter a current. This current carries you through events that may seem unrelated, unexpected, or even contradictory. But each movement is part of a choreography designed by your state. And the more someone relaxes into this current, the faster and smoother the unfolding becomes. And once someone stops needing the bridge to make sense, they can finally do the most powerful practice Neville ever taught. imagining a single moment that proves their desire is fulfilled. He always says that people overcomplicate manifestation because they think they need to imagine an entire story. But Neville Goddard made it beautifully simple. Choose one moment, one tiny scene that could only happen if your desire were already fulfilled. Not a movie, not a long script, just a snapshot. A handshake, a text message, a hug, a bank notification, a quiet smile in the mirror. One scene is enough to shift an entire identity. He likes to guide people into this practice gently. Imagine the moment after it happens, he says, because the aftermath always carries relief. If someone wants financial freedom, he asks them to imagine checking an account and feeling a wave of calm certainty. Not excitement, naturalness. If someone wants love, he asks them to imagine hearing "I'm home" and feeling the ease of a settled heart. This is the feeling it real Neville emphasized so much. He's watched people try to force excitement into their imaginations, thinking enthusiasm is the secret. But Neville taught the opposite. Fulfillment feels normal, natural, quiet, soft. So he encourages people to imagine moments of relief, moments that reflect a calm knowing. When relief shows up in the scene, the subconscious recognizes it as truth. And once the subconscious accepts the scene, the bridge of incidents begins. A single moment can do more than hours of visualization. He loves giving the example of someone wanting career success. Instead of imagining an entire office celebration, he tells them to imagine one small action, a co-worker saying, "Congratulations, you deserve this." That sentence alone carries the state. It's specific enough to feel real and short enough to bypass resistance. Neville Goddard always insisted the simplest scenes are the most effective. He also encourages people to incorporate their senses. How does the air feel? What's the tone of the person's voice? How heavy or light does the body feel in this moment? These details make the scene vivid without making it complicated. Imagination creates reality when the senses are engaged, even subtly. And with each repetition, the scene sinks deeper into the subconscious, becoming the new identity. He's seen people transform their emotional state with one well-crafted scene. Someone wanting reconciliation imagines a warm smile and the words, "It's all good now." Someone seeking healing imagines waking up feeling light and stretching with ease. Someone seeking abundance imagines exhaling and realizing every bill is paid effortlessly. These micro moments are powerful because they carry the emotional signature of the fulfilled state. When someone practices this nightly, something interesting happens. The scene begins to feel familiar, as if it already existed. That familiarity is identity shifting. That's what creation is finished explained truly means. The moment the scene feels like memory rather than fantasy, the manifestation steps Neville described activate instantly. The bridge begins to move in ways the person can't predict, and the relief that comes with this practice is not imagined, it's real. It shows up in the body, the breath, the posture. A person suddenly feels less urgency, less desperation, less resistance. They aren't hoping anymore, they're remembering, and this remembering is the key. The world doesn't respond to wishes, it responds to states, and a fulfilled state speaks louder than anything the person does in the physical world. He tells people to repeat the scene until they reach a point where they could almost swear it already happened. That moment of certainty is the spark. It's the ignition. It's what makes the bridge of incidents Neville Goddard spoke about rise from the invisible into the visible. And once that spark is lit, the external world begins rearranging itself automatically to reflect what the inner world has already accepted. And this experience of relief, of feeling the end as done, naturally leads to the next truth. The catalyst that ignites the bridge isn't effort, it's the feeling itself. He often explains that the world doesn't respond to what someone wants. It responds to how they feel. Neville Goddard insisted that feeling is the secret because emotion is what stamps the state onto the subconscious. It's not loud emotion or dramatic intensity, but a grounded inner certainty. When someone reaches that place where gratitude feels natural and the outcome feels inevitable, the bridge of incidents begins moving with momentum. He loves telling people that gratitude is not something you use to get a desire. It's a symptom of already having it. When someone imagines from the end Neville style, gratitude rises effortlessly, like a quiet warmth spreading through the chest. That warmth is evidence. It's the inner world saying, I know this is real. And life mirrors that knowing with synchronicities, opportunities, and shifts that appear almost magically. People often confuse desire with fulfillment. Desire feels like longing, lack, distance. Fulfillment feels like completion, calmness, ease. He teaches that the goal is not to desire harder, but to feel the outcome as done. This quiet certainty is not about ignoring reality. It's about choosing which reality to emotionally inhabit. When someone practices feeling it real, Neville emphasized, the external world adjusts itself to match the emotional tone. He's watched people try to manifest through force, affirmations, and rituals only to stay stuck. Why? Because the emotion underneath is still rooted in fear or doubt. The law of assumption method isn't about repeating words. It's about assuming a state so deeply that the body relaxes into it. Real assumption feels like breathing, natural, light, effortless. And it's this effortless feeling that begins to move the world. Quiet certainty has a unique signature. It doesn't demand, it doesn't strain, it doesn't beg. It simply is. He often compares it to someone who knows they left the house with their keys. They don't search frantically. They just reach into their pocket with confidence. That's what the fulfilled state feels like. Not hope, not wishing, just knowing. And this knowing sends a signal into the fabric of reality. He teaches that gratitude acts like an internal bridge. It connects the person's current experience with the state they've chosen, blending them into one. When gratitude becomes natural, circumstances begin aligning with precision. A phone call comes at the right moment. A stalled situation suddenly moves. A new path opens. These moments are not coincidences. They're the world realigning itself around the person's chosen state. And then there's relief, real relief. This is the energetic shift Neville pointed to when he said, "Creation is finished, explained." Relief signals that the mind is no longer resisting. When someone feels relief, they're no longer worrying about the how. They've surrendered that part to the bridge. And that surrender is what ignites movement. The external world begins shifting because the internal world stopped clutching. He's seen people practice this nightly, and something beautiful happens. The more they feel the fulfillment emotionally, the less they chase it physically. The desire stops being a craving and becomes a reality they are simply aligning with. And ironically, that's when everything accelerates. Opportunities start appearing before they're even needed. Life begins anticipating the person, moving ahead of them like a well-timed dance. When a person reaches this emotional harmony, gratitude, ease, quiet certainty, the bridge of incidents Neville Goddard spoke of becomes unavoidable. It has to unfold. It's the natural extension of the state they're embodying. The world isn't resisting them anymore. It's cooperating, responding, aligning. The feeling has already carved the path. And yet, even with all this alignment, something interesting happens next. Physical appearances will often contradict the inner state, and that moment is a crucial part of the process. He loves reminding people that contradictions are not a sign of failure, they're a sign of transition. Neville Goddard said this countless times: the moment someone truly assumes the end, the old state begins to die, and just like anything fading away, it often makes noise. So when life appears to contradict the desire, he tells people to take a breath. It's not the world pushing back, it's the world rearranging. He compares it to cleaning out a closet. The moment you begin pulling things out, the room looks messier than before. But that mess is actually progress. It means change is happening. The law of assumption method works the same way. When someone shifts states internally, the old emotional patterns, beliefs, and reflections surface so they can dissolve. They aren't returning, they're leaving, and leaving often looks chaotic. People often panic when an unwanted circumstance appears after they've been living in the end, Neville taught. But he gently reminds them, this is just the echo of who they used to be. Old reflections still bouncing through time, and an echo can't hurt them, it can only fade. If they stay calm, anchored in the feeling it real, Neville emphasized, the echo disappears and the new reflection emerges. He's seen people misinterpret this phase and abandon their assumption right at the turning point. They see a bill come in, a delay happen, someone say the wrong thing, and they think the manifestation isn't working. But this is exactly when it is working. Contradictions show up because the new state is pushing the old one out. It's a sign that the bridge of incidents has begun forming behind the scenes. He often says that the universe is like a stage crew. When the main character Yu switches scripts, the crew needs a moment to reorganize the props. During that time, things look out of place, but the reorganization is movement toward the new scene, not away from it. That crooked chair, that misplaced spotlight, that strange timing. It's all part of setting up the new reality you chose through your inner conviction. Neville frequently stressed the power of persistence, not persistence in effort, but persistence in state. Remaining loyal to the end, even when the 3D world hasn't caught up yet. This loyalty acts like an anchor. It prevents someone from shifting back into doubt, and once they stop shifting between states, the external world stabilizes and begins reflecting only the new assumption. He likes to remind people that the physical world is slow, not wrong, just slow. It's the last layer to change. Consciousness moves instantly, emotion moves quickly, but matter moves gradually. So when the outer world contradicts your assumed end, it's simply lagging behind. And that lag doesn't mean failure. It means success is working its way into form. He's seen people experience this transition in relationships, finances, health, everywhere. A couple argues right before reconciling. A business slows down right before booming. A person feels tired right before healing. These contradictions aren't obstacles, they're clearing the old story, making room for the new. The bridge of incidents Neville Goddard described often starts with moments that look like the opposite. Remaining calm in this phase is everything. Calmness means trust. Trust means alignment. Alignment means momentum. And when someone holds the fulfilled state through contradictions, they teach the world how to treat them. They stop reacting to what they see and start responding to what they've chosen. And that response begins to magnetize the next phase of the unfolding. And right after contradictions fade, something beautiful starts happening. The first signs, subtle, precise, and unmistakably aligned with the end you've already accepted. He always says that the bridge doesn't ring a doorbell, it whispers. The first signs aren't usually dramatic. They're subtle shifts that make someone pause and think, wait, that was strange. Neville Goddard explained that once the inner state is accepted, the external world begins aligning in ways that seem coincidental but are actually precise. These synchronicities are the breadcrumbs of the new reality forming. He loves giving examples because people recognize themselves in them immediately. A person thinks of someone they haven't spoken to in years, and they text that same day. Someone casually mentions an idea that solves a problem you've been stressing about for weeks. A forgotten opportunity resurfaces out of nowhere. These aren't random accidents. They are the early movements of the bridge responding to your assumed end, Neville taught. Unexpected opportunities are another hallmark. He's seen people assume financial abundance, and suddenly a job offer appears. A client reaches out or a debt is unexpectedly forgiven. Not because they hustled harder, but because the state they're embodying is reorganizing their environment. Imagination creates reality, and once the subconscious believes the end, the world cooperates effortlessly. Sudden insights are also part of the unfolding. People often underestimate how powerful a single idea can be. He's seen someone wake up with a solution they couldn't find for months. Another person suddenly feels inspired to check a website, make a call, or take a small action they had been procrastinating. These impulses are not random. They're the manifestation steps Neville pointed to, guiding you forward one nudge at a time. He likes to call these moments winks from the universe, a conversation overheard, a phrase that jumps off a page, an email sent at the perfect moment. These subtle signs are like indicators that the bridge of incidents Neville Goddard described is officially in motion. They're not the end result. They're the warm-up, the confirmation that your inner world is beginning to shape your outer world. When someone starts noticing these signs, something else shifts, their confidence deepens. They begin trusting the feeling it real Neville emphasized. They realize they're not forcing reality. They're guiding it through their state, and this trust amplifies the movement, accelerating the unfolding of events. The more aligned they feel, the more signs show up. He's seen people try to dismiss these early signs by saying, "Oh, that's just coincidence." But the moment they do that, they weaken their state. Recognizing synchronicities strengthens conviction. Conviction strengthens the law of assumption method. And once conviction becomes natural, the bridge speeds up. It's like turning the dial from slow to effortless. The most beautiful part is how perfectly timed everything becomes. Someone you needed to meet appears exactly when you had the thought. A resource arrives at the exact moment you needed it. Even delays begin to feel purposeful because they guide you into moments, places, or people aligned with your chosen end. Everything begins to organize itself with orchestral precision. People also notice that their emotional state begins shifting. They feel lighter, calmer, more open. Anxiety fades and is replaced by a sense of certainty. This isn't placebo, it's alignment. When the inner world matches the end, the body feels it, and the body's calmness becomes another sign that the bridge is functioning perfectly. Neville said the outer world mirrors the inner one, and these signs prove it. And once these early signals appear, the next phase becomes even more powerful, embodying the fulfilled version of yourself so deeply that you no longer need signs at all, because you become the sign. He often says that the most transformative moment in someone's journey is when they stop checking the progress bar. Neville Goddard taught that true embodiment is living as if the desire is already a fact, not a goal. When someone reaches this state, they no longer stare at the mirror for signs or check their phone hoping for evidence. They simply are the version who has it. And this quiet ownership is what completes the identity shift. He explains that micromanaging is a subtle form of doubt. It's the mind saying, "I don't trust this to unfold unless I control every detail." But the bridge of incidents Neville described isn't something anyone can control consciously. It's orchestrated from the unseen, from the state the person has assumed. When someone tries to force or monitor the process, they're actually stepping out of the state and into fear. He gently reminds people that being the fulfilled version of themselves isn't about acting or pretending. It's about responding differently. If someone assumed abundance, they don't obsess over bills, they handle them calmly. If someone assumed love, they don't cling to validation, they move with confidence. If someone assumed success, they don't rush, they make decisions from clarity. This is how imagination creates reality, through natural, effortless embodiment. He loves using the example of a person who decides to become healthier. Once they truly embody that identity, they stop Googling every symptom and start listening to their body with trust. That shift alone often leads to rapid transformation. The law of assumption method works the same way. When someone adopts the state mentally and emotionally, the physical world begins reorganizing itself around that identity. He emphasizes that deep embodiment feels like relief, not tension. When someone is living in the end Neville spoke of, they don't wake up wondering when things will happen. They wake up feeling aligned, stable, and grounded. This steadiness is what magnetizes the next steps on the bridge. The universe reads the person's state like a command. This is who I am now. And everything outside begins to match it. He's seen people transform their entire lives simply by letting go of the need to monitor the process. A woman stopped checking her email every hour, and the moment she relaxed, the message she'd been waiting for arrived. A man stopped worrying about timelines, and within days, the opportunity he wanted fell into his lap. The bridge works fastest when the mind stops interfering. Deep embodiment is also reflected in small choices. Someone who assumes success starts organizing their life differently. Someone who assumes love begins setting healthy boundaries. Someone who assumes abundance stops reacting to minor setbacks. These subtle shifts are powerful because they align with the new identity. And alignment accelerates the bridge of incidents Neville Goddard described. He likes to call this the click moment. It's when the person realizes they don't need signs anymore because they feel the truth internally. They don't need reassurance because the state itself is the reassurance. They stop asking, "Is it working?" because they are the version for whom it has already worked. And from this place, life moves with elegance and precision. Yet even in deep embodiment, there is one final realization that brings everything together. One truth that Neville emphasized more than anything else. The bridge doesn't appear gradually. It appears the moment the end is assumed. He always emphasizes that the bridge doesn't take days, weeks, or months to begin. It starts instantly. Neville Goddard made this point over and over again. The moment the end is accepted as true in imagination, the root forms. Not when the world changes, when you change. That inner shift is what activates the entire unfolding. Everything after that is simply life rearranging to match your new state. He explains that people get confused because they expect the bridge to appear physically right away. But the bridge is a chain of unseen movements long before it becomes visible. A conversation repositions itself. A person begins thinking of you. An opportunity is prepared behind the scenes. Nothing looks different at first, but everything is already in motion. Creation is finished explained this beautifully. The ending exists, and the path is the natural consequence of that ending. He often says the most important word Neville ever used was faithfulness. Not faith in the religious sense, faithfulness to the chosen end. When someone remains committed to their inner reality, the outer world has no choice but to follow. The law of assumption method doesn't respond to indecision. It responds to loyalty, to consistency, to a mind that says, I already know how this ends. He's seen people transform their entire lives by mastering only this, staying loyal to the end even when the middle doesn't make sense. Someone assumes abundance and a temporary setback appears, but they stay steady. Someone assumes reconciliation and communication seems to falter, but they stay steady. Someone assumes healing and old symptoms flare, but they stay steady. And every time, the bridge completes itself in ways they never expected. He compares the process to ordering a package online. Once you've placed the order, you don't track every truck on the road or call every warehouse for updates. You trust the system, you trust the route, you trust the delivery. The universe works the same way. When you assume the end Neville taught, the route becomes none of your business. Your job is done the moment the state is accepted. He often reminds people that micromanaging the bridge slows it down. Trying to control the route signals doubt. Doubt signals a shift in state, and when the state shifts, the bridge wobbles. But when someone stays emotionally loyal to their chosen end, calm, certain, grounded, the path becomes smooth. Opportunities arrive at the perfect moment. People appear exactly when needed. The unfolding becomes inevitable. He likes to tell a simple story. A man assumed success in his new business. For weeks, nothing changed. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, a friend mentioned his name in a conversation he wasn't even part of. That conversation led to a meeting. That meeting led to a deal. That deal changed his entire life. The bridge didn't appear gradually. It appeared instantly when he assumed. The rest was just timing. Neville always insisted that the bridge is never wrong. It may feel unfamiliar, unpredictable, or illogical, but it's always right. It's engineered by the state itself. Once you've accepted the end, you can relax into the process. Life knows the shortest route. Life knows the easiest route. Life knows the perfect route. You just keep walking as the version of you who already arrived. And he loves telling people that once they truly understand this, manifestation becomes less about getting and more about being. Being the end, being the version, being the fulfillment. That's what activates the bridge. That's what carries you. That's what finishes the story. And from here, everything is already in place for the final piece, the introduction that brings the entire message together. Now that you understand how the bridge forms the moment you assume the end, the question becomes simple. Will you keep waiting for signs, or will you become the sign? Nothing in your life changes until you shift the state you're living from. And once you do, everything changes. Not because of luck, but because the world must mirror the version of you that you finally decided to be. So let me ask you, what version of yourself are you ready to embody today? What desire feels natural once you stop asking when and start saying it's done? And how differently would your world look if you dared to live from the end right now? If this message brought clarity, inspiration, or even a spark of possibility, don't leave it here. Apply it. Live it. Let the bridge appear beneath your feet. And to keep learning, growing, and mastering this inner world that shapes everything, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. There's so much more ahead, and I want you on this journey with me.